Chris Klieman gambled. It did not pay off. Where does Kansas State go? Their playoff hopes now on thinner ice. And a full reaction from Game 1 of Week 0 on today's Locked On College Football.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view post Farmageddon in Ireland. That is JT Wistrcill of Locked On Utes. We're both part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. Shout out to my everydayers out there. Tons to get to. Full game reaction from what was an awesome way to kickstart the season. This episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is not around the corner. It's here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. JT, we have to start with the decision by Chris Klieman to go bold on his own 29, 30-yard line. It was hard to see the chalk lines because so much rain had fallen on the field in the Aer Lingus Classic. And with over 8 minutes to go, down by 3, I was stunned. Chris Klieman actually went for it on 4th and short. And once again, Kansas State came up short, needing less than 3 feet.
It was a bad decision to go for it. I actually thought the spot was bad. I'll say that as well.
I agree.
Got it, but you just don't go for it. I mean, Avery Johnson really started to heat up in the second half. Live to fight another day. Make this Iowa State offense, which the word that defines this game overall to me is still sloppy. There's a high chance that Iowa State could have made a mistake. Yes, credit Iowa State at the end of the game. They drove down, finished off with a touchdown, but that's a lot longer to have to go if you punt it away. I thought they absolutely should have punted it right there. I really liked the way Avery Johnson started to play more in the second half, and I just don't think you go for it in that spot, especially when Iowa State's front seven, I was so impressed with them. Let's not forget what happened earlier. Part of the reason Kansas State was in that position that they were trailing was they opted not to kick a field goal earlier in the game. Instead, they went for it on 4th down in a key spot. And what happened? The Iowa State front seven won the line of scrimmage. They did so there again. I will give it credit. It was a safety who actually came down, who was the first one in to blow up that play there. But they're playing close there because they knew with the empty backfield, they knew Avery Johnson was probably going to run it. And also, that's the risk when you have a quarterback run it all out as well, is Avery Johnson knows, I'm not supposed to take brutal hits. He eased up a little bit before he got absolutely blasted there. Had he gone a little harder, he might have gotten the first down. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just saying when you're having a quarterback do that who's constantly told don't take big hits, that's what also happens sometimes. Totally disagree with the call, and it may have cost Kansas State a spot in the Big 12 title game.
It absolutely can. We talked about that here on the show going into this matchup with Christian Rao of Locked On Wildcats and Nick Maravitz of Locked On Cyclones that, the stakes for this Week 0 game couldn't be much higher because you've got two top 25 teams, and I still like Kansas State a lot. I picked them to win this game. I picked them to win 10 games this year, and look, could they still get to that threshold? Yes, I believe that they can, but it's so much tougher because you don't just have a Big 12 loss already, and you can probably only afford one more at most in league play. You now lose the head-to-head with Iowa State, so if it comes down to tiebreakers, it's you and the Cyclones. You're not getting in, and that might be the difference between you not just making the Big 12 championship game, but making the college football playoff or not. So a huge letdown for Kansas State here to have it come down to those moments. Was it a great game that I enjoyed? Yep. And my guy Christian Rao, and you know him as well, he's probably not having a good time. The season feels like it is over. It's not. It just gets way, way tougher for what they are capable of accomplishing this year. But I want to go back to that decision for a moment because here's where I object. And you mentioned the sloppiness earlier. Let's not overlook the fact it was pouring rain for the first quarter. It let up a little, but the ball was still wet. And on that Avery Johnson 4th down and 1, where everybody in the world knew that was going to be a quarterback run once they emptied the backfield. That was just, I'll get to that in a moment. I wonder, you talked about the letting up, if the rain didn't play a part in that. These guys were not cutting the same because they know you can't make the big aggressive cut. You can't do everything you normally would on a 75-degree day in Manhattan or Ames because the field is wet. You're worried about tearing your ACL or you're worried about just falling down. So I think that's another reason with how Kansas State's defense played for most of the game, even once the conditions improved. Rocco Beck finished the game 14 of 28 throwing the ball. He made some big throws.
He did.
But man, 14 of 28 passes, they were not getting torched consistently, but you put him at the 30-yard line, and that's just a much more difficult spot to be in.
I didn't think Matt Wells called a very good game. I'll also just say that as well. It was first game of the season, but also they said he has not called plays since he was the head coach at Utah State before he brought in his offensive coordinator. That's a very long time. We're talking 2018 season was the most recent. Actually, it might have even been before that based on what they said on the broadcast. So that's a long time. I didn't love the game plan coming in as well. I felt like it looked like a offensive coordinator who this was his first time calling plays as well. And look, I'll also say is losing Dylan Edwards as early as they did, that's a massive blow. And I'm sure he was a huge part of this game plan. So that's a huge blow, the fact that they lost him. But they were just also, it felt like early on, did they trust Avery Johnson? They're running it on 3rd and long. And I know the argument's like, well, it's a sloppy game like that. But in some ways, at times I thought they were playing not to lose early on, and kind of later on it cost them. And I know they ended up going for it on the 4th down. But like you said, you had an opportunity to take and get the points right there. You just got stuffed on 3rd down, and we saw what happened on 4th down early on, and 2 big 4th down stops end up really rearing their ugly heads.
Okay, let me defend Matt Wells in this regard, Kansas State's offensive coordinator. I don't know that early on there's as much criticism to be had because the conditions were so bad. I mean, no one was it looked in the first quarter like you were going to have 15 total passes completed, if that, with the way that the rain was falling down. Once it settled in, Avery Johnson threw the ball well in this game. He's 21 of 30 for 273, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And, he ran the ball 8 times for 21 yards. The inability to get him going in that regard, I think, was really costly for Kansas State in this spot. But the first time they went for it and left 3 points out there, which, of course, is what they lost by. And, yeah, Iowa State could have punched it in at the end. They knelt out the clock wisely. But take notes, Mario Cristobal. But you can't not bring EA College Football 26 brings it up. You can't not mention it. But the first time they went for it, they had 3rd and short, they had 4th and short, and Avery Johnson didn't run the ball. And I tweeted out at the time, how do you run 2 plays needing less than a yard and don't take advantage of the numbers game that you get when you do run your quarterback with a great running quarterback? And then when you get in a 4th and short, when knowing that you didn't run the quarterback previously, and then you empty the backfield, I mean, all the defense has to figure out is he going left or is he going right? And once he sees him takes off, there was no chance that was going to be anything else. So I think in those moments, the situational moments, you mentioned Wells hasn't called plays in a while, that's where I felt like he faltered and let Kansas State down more than the overall game plan that they had coming into today.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And I'll also just say this with the Kansas State, I don't love running to the outside there, trying to get that edge. I would rather run it when it is 4th and 1. I'll say it was a very long one. I went back and rewatched it a couple times.
It was a long one.
What is a very long one? I'd still take my chance up the middle. Even if they got stuffed earlier, I just think it's harder to get those blocks on the outside. You see how much stuff gets cluttered up out there. And it's such a risk. So I feel like they should have ran it on the inside if they're going to do it there. But yeah, it was unfortunate the way it turned out for Kansas State. I'll give a ton of credit for Iowa State. I was screaming at my TV, don't go for it when they were going to on 4th and 3. I mean,
yeah. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that.
It was the timeout, and then it was, they just took it forever, and I was like, okay, they're not actually going to do this. And then they go for it. And I love the play call there because, in situations like that, Kansas State's like, well, we're going to send the house. Like, we're going to blitz. We're going to get them. A lot of times that's what you do because you think it's 4th and 3. It's too long to run. So if we send the house, we put them in a bad spot. Well, because they sent the house, what happened was when they Hansen goes to the outside on the quick route, the linebacker got caught up in the tight end coming out. So you knew everyone was coming in. You knew right away the quick check down would be there. It absolutely was. And Hansen nearly gets in for the touchdown too. So I give a lot of credit for Iowa State. And I think it makes sense that we're celebrating Matt Campbell after what is now his 100th career win too, because he outcoached Chris Klieman in this game, I felt like.
Yeah, I think the execution is really what it came down to. We're getting to more game reaction, talk about the quarterbacks, what they showed, what to expect from them as they go through the Big 12 title chase throughout the rest of the season and where all that looks. Plenty more reaction from Game 1 of the 2025 season. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel's giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. If you want to bet anything college football related, FanDuel's the place to do it. They've got everything. They've got games like the one we're talking about right now. They have got futures bets that are there for August 26th. Everything you could possibly want to make the college football season even more exciting, FanDuel has got you covered. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. That's August 26th. FanDuel, play your game. Okay, I want to finish up on the coordinator thing, JT, because the situational moments I talked about earlier, to your point, Iowa State does go for it. I didn't think they were going to. They came out, tried to draw Kansas State offside. I thought, okay, that makes sense. See if you can get a free five. Then they call timeout, and they go back into the huddle. And you know what? You have a third-year starting quarterback in Rocco Becht, who's a redshirt junior, who's one of the best guys, reigning Big 12 honorable mention selection back there. I totally respect the mindset there. And frankly, I respect it from Chris Klieman as well. Like it wasn't so much the decisions in those spots. I understand it. The reason Matt Campbell's not going to catch as much flack as Chris Klieman will after this game is because his team executed in those moments and they won the game. That's what it ultimately comes down to. Iowa State, though, second-year offensive coordinator with Taylor Mauser in the big spot. He came up situationally the way that his staff needed him to, whereas Matt Wells didn't, and it's his first year calling plays. And that's such a small gap, but that's really what I felt like it came down to and what it looked like to me with how those moments in the game were handled. One guy's got a little bit more experience than the other guy.
It absolutely was. I'll also go back to something I thought was very interesting at halftime. The sideline reporter asked Chris Klieman about what do you think of why is your offense struggling? He's like, well, let's give some credit to the defenses. And it was like, there's obviously things your offense needs to come up on. I just don't feel like that was the time to deflect and say like, hey, this is what the defense is doing. And he's like, the defense has made some good plays. Well, the best defense, honestly, in some ways was the weather at times too, because we have Rocco Becht trying to pitch it back and the ball slips out of his hands. But yeah, incredibly impressed with Iowa State. I'm already, it was only game one. I'm trying not to overreact. I'm already feeling like I was a little lower on Rocco Becht than I should have been. And I know this wasn't his greatest stat line, but I thought he made a lot of big time throws in this game. I was very impressed with him. Look, they have two monster receivers they're trying to replace on the outside, but they just needed a couple of guys to come through. The tight ends are going to be a huge part of this game. How about the sideline catch as well that didn't end up counting by the one?
Oh my gosh.
Unreal.
I wanted incredible. It to count so badly. It was not a catch, just to be clear, but my goodness. Yeah. My goodness.
It was unreal. And you know what? In a game like that, a rivalry game, Farmageddon, first game of the season, it's going to come down to toughness and who does execute. And Iowa State was able to do it more than Kansas State did. And like you said even earlier, Spencer, like it's just amazing how different 1-0 and 0-1 can feel when you're staring down a gauntlet of a Big 12 schedule. ESPN said it multiple times. This conference has produced a conference winner, 5 different winners over the last 5 years. It's the only conference in the P4 that has done that.
Yeah, and I think that this is emblematic of that. Kansas State betting favorite or one of the betting favorites coming into the year, a little ahead of Iowa State. That's certainly up there as well. And I had both these teams as 9-10 win programs entering the season. And obviously I don't feel that differently about it. Like this was about the game I expected. I just thought Kansas State would be able to get it done because, of what they had on the outside compared to what Iowa State had to replace in the wide receiver spot. But you got to credit that Iowa State staff because they made the right plays or they called the right plays and the players went out and executed. And look, it wasn't a what's the word I'm looking for? A glorifying stat line for Rocco Becht. 14 of 28 for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. But when they got the ball back after that 4th down stop, JT, first of all, he had a fumble, but I mean, it was so wet out there. Like, I
didn't think his offensive line was very good in the first half. I thought they ran the ball better in the 4th quarter, so I'll give him credit for that. And they had a couple of key blitz pickups, but especially early on, I thought they let a lot of pressure up. There were a lot of drop passes you mentioned too, and Becht hung in there and made a lot of plays.
Yeah, how about Carson Hansen, 16 carries for 71 yards in this one? I mean, came alive in the second half. Abu Sama was kind of taken away, didn't really make that big of an imprint on the game. But when Iowa State's defense made the play of the game with still 8 minutes to go, there was so much time. I cannot believe Chris Klieman went for that. But like I get it. You got a somewhat veteran quarterback and such, but once that ball got back into Rocco Beck's hands, it was just the one throw. I mean, the fourth down throw, he makes that. But that seam shot to the tight end, that's a big boy throw. I mean, they showed the backside angle of, kind of what the quarterback's vision was. That ball was threaded over the linebacker, under the safety, away from the corner, right on his tight end's hands. That's what makes Rocco Beck one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the Big 12, but in all of college football coming into this year. That moment made me go, man, this Rocco Beck guy, he might be getting them back to the Big 12 championship game if he plays like this.
To deliver in the moments that he did, when you're not having your greatest day overall. But the reason we're raving about him is because he came through in those moments. When your offensive line is not stepping up, you're down your top 2 wide receivers from a season ago. So yes, you've had all of fall camp to go through these guys, but now you're in the fire with it too. Also, I assume Iowa State was on a similar travel schedule to Kansas State. They got out there like Thursday, they said. I think that's insane when you think of the travel time and the schedule and the adjustments that your bodies need to take as well too. So you're tired, it's rainy, it's sloppy. Like there's just so much going on. And for both quarterbacks, I'll include Avery Johnson in this too, because I thought he played well in the second half in particular too. Like to come through in a lot of the big ways that they did, a ton of credit to them. But when you have a quarterback like Rocco Beck, there was a stat on there, they said on ESPN, where he has thrown a touchdown pass now in the most consecutive games amongst active college football quarterbacks.
Yep.
That is the type of play that you need to get through the Big 12. And I don't know, part of me was a little worried that Iowa State might have like a Falcons Super Bowl hangover from last year, even though they got blown out versus Atlanta just blew up the lead. But it's been hard for Iowa State to get back there. We haven't seen a Big 12 team also just make it to the title game in back-to-back years in a very long time, Spencer. So I was a little worried about the Cyclones this season. But when you have that guy at quarterback, anything is possible. Was really impressed with his Iowa State team. Matt Campbell always so well coached. The defense came through in really key spots where it mattered most, particularly on 3rd and 4th down in the inches. They were able to win them. And I think this is going to be a massive win for the Cyclones, who now both these teams got to get back quick and get ready for some more tough Big 12 play coming up soon.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Avery Johnson here to wrap this second segment, because in no way, shape, or form did I felt like he lost Kansas State the game. He wasn't able to get the yard on 4th and short. If you want to lobby that criticism, I mean, fine. Like, it's, a tough spot. He gets popped by the safety. The ground is
we both
wet.
said
Like,
we thought he got it. Got it.
It looked to me, when I watched the play live, my first verbal thought was, oh, he got it. And then I saw the spot, and I don't know. And you can question that, and I'm sure Kansas State fans that are frustrated will question that all they want. And you're, of course, right to do all that. But the fact of the matter is Chris Klieman shouldn't have put them in that position. Don't allow it to come down to a spot, to an official, to a moment, to anything like that. Just you got to have some more faith in your defense, because I thought, man, particularly in the first half, this Kansas State front four looks nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, nasty good. And Iowa State made some schematic adjustments, but Rocco Beck was running for his life a lot of this day. He evaded on his own probably 4 sacks that looked like Kansas State was going to get because they had a free runner coming at him. I thought the Kansas State defense, like, I don't feel that much worse about Kansas State. It's just, bounce a ball sort of game. You didn't execute in a couple of key spots, a 4th and 3 and two fourth down plays in less than a yard. Like, that was really it. That's what this game was. This looked like 2 championship caliber teams, and Avery Johnson, once the ball stopped being, a wet watermelon to pick up and try to throw, when neither guy was able to consistently complete passes, and it was hard for receivers to catch it. Once that happened, JT, I think Avery Johnson is going to catch a little bit of flack. I just get the sense after this game, but man, he looked good to me. I saw some progress. That long touchdown after Iowa State scored, the 65-yarder to who did he throw? He threw that to Jerron Bradley.
Yes.
I mean, that's a dime. He's going left. That's a long throw down the field. He didn't turn the ball over in this game. I don't think this is a game that should cause Kansas State to be any less confident about their signal caller.
No, not at all. I was incredibly, but the first down rushing touchdown that he had, able to get in there too. So many dynamic plays. I was incredibly impressed on several occasions, multiple throws. Like you said, just the toughness, ability to. He is still one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. He set a program record for passing touchdowns a season ago. I think he's easily going to exceed that this season. I was incredibly impressed with his play. I think he is going to be one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. I think this will fuel him. I think Kansas State, they still have some questions at wide receiver, and those guys were able to make some plays too. The Dylan Edwards loss, as we mentioned too. So a lot of the things you have in your game plan probably got thrown out the window early on in some ways too, even though obviously they have a very capable other option at running back. But I was incredibly impressed with Avery Johnson. At first, I thought it was just him getting settled into college football, but I am just starting, not college football, but just the season, like playing a game again. But I'm really starting to think now, looking back, it was probably the weather was the biggest thing for him, because once he did, it was impressive. Multiple throws, multiple job evading sacks as well too. Avery Johnson is going to be one of the best quarterbacks. I still believe in college football this year. The Big 12 quarterback depth is miraculous. Avery Johnson, Rocco Beck did the Big 12 proud today. And I think this game overall absolutely delivered what we all wanted to, a week 0 college football thriller.
Yeah, this is as good of an appetizer for the season, I think, as we could really ask for. I mean, it came down to 3 plays that were fourth downs. 4th and 3 for Iowa State, a pair of 4th and 1s for Kansas State. You look back and go, if one of those plays goes in the other direction, Kansas State could wind up winning the football game. Like, just a phenomenal game all around. Something I really don't want to see, that we're going to have to wait until next week to know about, and what this game means for the Big 12 championship outlook. That is how we wrap today's pod. First, this episode brought to you by Rugia. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugia Ready. Rugia Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugia's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugia might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugia.com/LockedOnCollege. Use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege. Use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugia website for full safety information. Check them out at Rugia.com/LockedOnCollege. All right, here's what I don't want to see, JT. This was the first ever preseason top 25 matchup of Big 12 teams, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, they said that, and I thought, really? And then they said it again, and I thought, no, they've clearly double-checked that. Okay. Kansas State came into this game ranked 17th. Iowa State came in ranked 22nd. Please just swap them when the AP poll comes out next week. I don't want to see it. This was a coin flip go either way game, as it should have been coming into the matchup. I want to see Iowa State get rewarded for winning, and I don't want to see Kansas State. I know the AP poll and the CFP selection committee are different, but that guidance that got issued earlier this week said, well, we don't want to punish you for losing to a good team. Okay, well, Iowa State's a good team. They were in the Big 12 championship game last year. They're in the preseason top 25. Kansas State should be a ranked 0-1 college football team this year. And if they are not, then those in Big 12 country will have plenty of reason to gripe and say, wait a minute, are we going down the anti-Big 12 bias road again?
Mm-hmm. And I'll even say this, like, from a Utah fan who, if you look at the AP poll, Utah is one of the first ones out. Now, does that mean just because they're one of the first ones out, they're one of the first ones vaulted in? No. But I do believe Kansas State showed they belong in the top 25. Let's even look at who the 25th ranked team in the country is. That's Boise State. They play South Florida on Thursday, so they're going to beat the crap more than likely out of South Florida, and that should be like, oh, so they deserve now to vault up against the Kansas State. No, the circumstances, we already talked about it, the weather, traveling overseas, playing one of a conference game, all that goes into that as well, and now Kansas State has to fall out. No, I disagree. I think everyone who watched that game should feel like, okay, these are two teams that also will continue to grow and get better as the season goes on. Let's not forget, this is game 1 of a marathon for both of these programs and all the circumstances we just laid out too. So I absolutely feel that Kansas State should still be in the top 25. I was incredibly impressed with them as I was Iowa State. You said it best, Spencer. There were 3 plays this game came down to. Iowa State was able to make them. To me, Kansas State is still one of the 25 best teams in the country. And if they make the mistake of dropping them out, I think they will find their way back in there. Have a daunting schedule. They have some really tough road games on their schedule, Kansas State. But they are going to be a tough out for everyone they run into, and they made Iowa State, and honestly, everyone who was on Kansas State or Iowa State schedule should be sweating because it is going to be a physical game anytime you see those 2 teams. And I also think 2 of the 20 to maybe even 2 of the 15 best quarterbacks in college football on display today.
Let's wrap with this. I'd love to be able to come on here, and our boss, Zach Blackerby, loves us to have strong takes about what things mean. I don't know that this changes, obviously mathematically it does change the Big 12 championship outlook as we talked about earlier, but my perception of the league, my perception of these 2 teams as title contenders and therefore playoff contenders, I did not have a strong takeaway to shift that for either. I can still see Kansas State making the Big 12 championship game. Obviously, I can see Iowa State getting there. Did this game tell you anything that we don't already know about the Big 12 title hunt?
So it told me this as much as I was just raving about Kansas State, and I do believe in a lot of ways they will be a top 25 team again this season. I think it's going to be incredibly hard for them to reach that title game, though, because they have an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. They have to go to Baylor still, to Kansas, to Utah. I don't know how they don't lose 2 of those games at least, and that's
don't they have Tech on there too?
And they go to Tech. Yeah, they have Tech at home on there as well too. They also get TCU at home. Tough. Like, what if Hoover has a day? Like, I just think it's very hard for me to say, okay, they're only going to lose 1 more Big 12 game. This conference is loaded with quarterbacks. So that's the only thing I'll say is I will be surprised as we sit here right now if Kansas State is in the Big 12 title game, because I don't know how they only lose 1 more game of Big 12 play. I just think it's too tough of a schedule, and I think it's going to be a gauntlet for them, especially if we don't know how long Dylan Edwards is out for yet. If he's out, that's a massive loss too. So I just think it's really hard with the schedule they have. I think they really needed this neutral site win to get off to that hot start. I think they're a really good team. I think they'll make their way back in the top 25, like I said. But to me, I have a very hard time seeing Kansas State winning 10 plus games this season now. I think it's more than likely going to be 9-3 after losing in this week 1, especially with some of those daunting road tests they have coming up.
So what you're saying is I'm going to be 0 for 3 on my Big 12 title game picks already? All right.
They're gone with Utah.
That's fun. I did that last year. It didn't go particularly well, but it always goes well with JT Wistrcill, Locked On Utes. That's it for today. We'll be back with a bonus show tomorrow. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.